Hi everyone, I'm Kristy
And I'm Dan.
and we're Embrace the Crazy, where we talk about all things life, all things ups and downs, and we share our story of life with 4 kids and a dog. So today we're going to be talking about overscheduling, which is a real problem for a lot of people. A lot of families really struggle with this. And Dan's just itching to throw something out there because he is an absolute star at this.
I'll jump in now and just say I'm the one who's going to talk about how I do all the overscheduling, and you're the one that's going to talk about how you get it back on track, how you fix it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, as I mentioned, Dan he's terrible. He's terrible for it, and I think as adults we're really just generally we're quite bad at it. But the difficulty is when we have kids, we do it to them as well, which isn't great. It's, with sports activities, with school, with extracurriculars, with dinners out, with, catching up with friends. Life can be really, really hectic, and you can choose to make it more hectic, right? So today we're going to talk about the lessons, or what we've learned about overscheduling, how our own insights into that and understanding of overscheduling assists and detracts from our core values, and a healthy balance, and asking for help, and how we manage that in our lives. So as I said before, adults are really bad at it, and then they impose it on their kids. So, and I don't do this at all. So maybe Dan can talk about this a little bit.
All right, let's just talk about a general weekend or a general weekday where I'll put in place 10 plus activities, plus jobs, make all these commitments to the kids that we're going to do all these things on the weekend, and then we might get through a quarter of them. Which really explains my life if you really think about it in terms of day-to-day work or at home. Huge ideas and huge plans, and gets through some but not all of it. That is a pretty good example of our life, isn't it?
It is, and I'm kind of the dream buster, or the realist in the relationship. Dan has the big ideas, high head in the clouds kind of guy, whereas I'm very much a realist. Well, do we actually have time for that? And can our children maintain that level of interest and awakeness to be able to do all of these activities?
I like to call it the dream killer.
Yeah, that's his term of endearment for me. Thanks, Dan.
But I think that's part of what I love about families and being together. And we're fortunate we've got big extended families, so there's so much to do. There's so much fun to have. There's so many people to see, and we want to do all of those things. And I think most people are like us, and I know that you're like that as well. And I know when we talk to most of our friends and family, they have a very similar problem, a similar challenge.
They do.
But it's working out what are the right points for you. What are the stop points?
Yeah.
And how do you manage it when it's getting to a level, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Last weekend we didn't really have much on the agenda at all, which was really nice. But still, somehow, it got to Sunday night and you were running around like a chicken on fire trying to get everything done. I'm not really sure what happened there. We were just working in the garden. But I think that sometimes we either overschedule or underschedule. And if we underschedule, we think we've got more time than we do. And with daylight savings and things like that, it can get a bit tricky. But I wanted to touch on something. A couple of years ago, we had this thing called COVID, and we had to really scale back. We couldn't overschedule. There was nothing to do. So I wanted to talk about the value of slowing down and being together, and how important that is as a family, whether it's an extended family or just us, or just for yourself. The valuable lesson of slowing down, and I think it's good to be aware of it. And I think COVID taught us a lot, and I think a lot of us have lost that as well, including myself. You know, I had all these grand plans of, oh, this is amazing, I love all this time at home, but then I fill the diary back up very, very quickly. So we need to hold value in the slowing down, in the taking a step back. And Dan's dying over here. He's like, no way, I've got to get all the things done every single day.
No, I think I'm nodding because I agree that COVID was a great experience for people like me, where we really try and fill up everything and try and do everything. And being able to stop and do things like at night, have a fire and just be with the kids and you and just be around there relaxing and having dinner, things like that are really special. And oftentimes they're squeezed in amongst other things rather than being the focus or the central activity. And there was a huge amount of value in going through that experience. It was very difficult, very challenging for us and for many people, and it was a really difficult time. So not to repeat it, but some of the occasions and activities that occurred out of it really forced us into a way that we need to consider and remember.
Yeah, I think it's just those takeaways. It's not, we don't want to experience that again because that was absolutely catastrophic. But I think the lessons that we can take away and put into our lives is really important. And I think it holds some value.
I also want to talk about overscheduling. One other thing.
Yes.
One of the most common things that I hear about is families who have sport and extracurricular activities every night and sometimes double up. And then they wonder at the end of the week, why are we so tired? And why do we not have any time together? And it's a choice. And I understand that. And I know a lot of people talk about being busy and making sure the kids are doing lots of things and giving them all their opportunities, but there's time. And there's space that you can share these over time. So I always hear those stories and I think, so maybe we're a bit lucky because as we've got 4 kids, it's not a choice for us. We actually can't do that. And already our kids do a lot of things. You know, they do swimming always. And then they've got another sport that occurs on winter and summer. And then there's on top of that school activities, friend activities and many others. So they're already doing lots of things, but we really try and hold down on, no, you can only do one sport.
Oh, definitely.
Each half, because otherwise we know that with training commitments and other activities that they're going to be really tired. They're not going to give their best at school, and it's going to be a real stretch for us, particularly us where I'm not around a lot in the afternoon. So, you know, I think that there is a lot of thinking to do with yourselves around, okay, you might want them to do piano, play sport and do a language plus go to school, but maybe some of those have got to be spaced out over time and shared, because otherwise you're really doing it to yourself and it's going to be really challenging to really fit your schedule in and be able to do everything you need to. And I'm not, this isn't here's what you should do. It's not none of that. I think it's more talking about what we do to try and prevent that from happening. And we certainly see that in other areas, our friends or family or whoever that do that. And you kind of, it's almost like, hang on, but can't you see you're doing it to yourself? And can't you see that you're the one who's providing all these options and choices, which is then creating that life of craziness?
It's true. It's true. And you mentioned a word busy before, and that sparked something in me. I try not to say that I'm busy. When people ask, how are you? I always answer, I'm well or I'm not well. And I never say busy. I always say life is full. We've got a lot on. Of course, we're crazy. We've got, too many kids, whatever. But I try not to use the word busy, because busy isn't how you feel. Busy isn't how you are. Busy is a choice. And how you spend your hours can affect how busy you feel. And that's just me personally. That's not something, I don't know if Dan does it.
I do. But, I think we've talked about this a lot. So I always talk about this at work. I mean, you control it.
Yes.
So everyone will say they're busy at work. Well, of course you are. That's the whole point. And family is the same. Of course you're busy. But you control that. And I feel when I hear those words, it's almost like you've lost control. You are on that run. Going back to what we just talked about before, you've filled up your schedule with too many things and you've lost control, and therefore you are busy.
Yes. And that's a nice little segue. Thanks for the lost control reference there, Dan. We'll segue into overwhelm. And that's a really big thing for a lot of people nowadays, that feeling of being out of control, having lost control of what you're doing. And I would tag that as overwhelm. Not being able to manage all of the things that you need to do and feeling overwhelmed and stressed by it, and how that affecting other parts of your life.
How do you know when you're getting to that?
Well,
how do you know that point?
That's a very good question, and it takes a lot of insight, I think, for your own insight into how your body is feeling, how your life is feeling. And I think for me, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I don't sleep well. I've got a short fuse. I can't sit. I can't sit still. But I feel like recently, probably more recent years, I have been able to manage that a little bit better with my planning, my organisation, and saying no to things, but also doing the things for myself. So we always harp on about this. We always go back to this as a concept in every time we record. But looking after yourself is really important. And if you look after yourself, you can be really aware of those little nuances, those little things that change inside your body, in your mind, in your whole routine. And you can trigger that, okay, well, I'm heading down the wrong path now. And that's when you can break off at that point and do something about it. Dan, how do you know?
Yeah, I think there's a few signs, and signs are similar to what you just called out, but there's a few things for me that really stand out. Firstly, it will be eating poorly. That's one thing that really stands out to me, is that I'll look for comfort foods to try and make me feel better, but it makes me actually feel worse. So that's certainly one thing. And I think mood is probably the big thing for me. And I think anyone who knows me knows that I have a mood, and if I don't get enough sleep and I'm not investing in myself, that really falls down and detracts very quickly, and that impacts everyone. And I think there's a few ways that I try and address that. When the mood comes out, I know that it's my time to step away and go and have a break. And that break could be a walk outside. It could be a sleep, going to bed early, or something like that to just get me back on track. But without a doubt, they're the couple of signs that I have. And the biggest trigger for me is probably the balance of work and home life. I think that's the biggest trigger that helps me see, okay, I've got a challenge or a problem here, is when I feel like they're not working cohesively together.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So I think in terms of overwhelm and insight into your own breaking point, I think it being aware of what's going on, as I said before, but the things that work for us, as we said, getting more sleep, looking after ourselves, planning ahead, and talking about your plans and talking about how you're feeling. I think it's really important to communicate.
I also wanted to bring that up as well, because I think having someone around you that can say, hey, it looks like you're a bit under pressure here, or you know what, you should have a shower, or you should have a rest.
Yeah.
That is hugely valuable, and it's a great sign. Now, you can take it sometimes a way of, hang on, but you're telling me I can't handle it or I need to stop, but it's not that. It's actually just saying, hey, this is an awareness sign that I'm here to jump in and help out, and you need to take a quick break and resettle. And I think that is probably one of our best strategies between us as a partnership, is that we're able to do that. And I know sometimes we'll go over the edge, and so it becomes more of a criticism, or can be seen that way. But I think having someone who's looking out for you when they see those signs can say, you actually need to go to bed now.
Yes.
Or, you know, you should go and have a shower and I'll clean up here. I've got this sorted.
Yeah.
Just some very simple ways to be able to have your partner's back, or your friend's back, or whoever it may be, to be able to say, hey, there's a sign there, and I'm not calling it out. I'm not saying, gee, you look angry and you look like you're losing it, let me step in, but just saying, hey, go and take some time. I think that's a huge step forward in adding a lot of value to really picking you up, before you get to that real overwhelm point.
Definitely. And even if your partner or your friend or whoever that person is can get it before it gets to that point, before you're teetering on the edge, and say to you, hey, look, we've got a lot going on at the moment. I think it's really important, or we've got a lot going on this weekend. I think it's really important for us all to look after ourselves, and this can go for children as well. Hey, we've got a lot going on this weekend. Let's get to bed early so that we can enjoy the weekend, and making it a whole family adventure rather than singling people out. I think would also help. And
yeah, and I think there's also a big danger here. And it's called escapism. And I like this a lot, but I think sometimes you can say, you know what, I'm going to leave that world and go into my social media world, or go into my TV world, or just go into some other world. And I think we're big fans of breaking and stopping, but make sure that that's about investing in you.
Yes.
If you're scrolling through your feed or you're watching TV, you're really not investing in yourself that much, are you? I mean, sometimes some people might feel that way, but for me, I feel like that actually doesn't help recover that overwhelm. It almost just fills my brain with more activity, and I think I'm relaxing, but I'm actually not.
And it can actually make you more stressed, seeing, this Instagram life, this social media life. Oh, wow, everybody else is coping and I don't feel like I'm coping at all. And I think that it affects people, that scrolling and, even watching TV, and you just think, oh, but I think as you said, there is a danger there, but also I think there is a part of that which is helpful. So watching, just that little bit of TV at the end of the night, or reading a book. That I like to read, and so that's my escapism from the world that's too hard. It's becoming too hard sometimes.
And you got to get it out. I think that's the big thing when we talk about communication, is the ability to get it out. So sometimes that might mean not talking to the person that's involved in it. I know that talking to mates about challenges like this is really, really valuable, because it allows you to download and just get it out. And you know what? Then you'll hear similar stories, worse stories, better stories, where you start to go, okay, you know what? I can deal with this. I've heard it. Other people are feeling like this as well. It's not just me. And it's great that I've now got it off my chest. Now let's try and work through it to actually solve it.
Yeah, and that brings up something in my mind, Dan, from when, our children were small. Mother's group. It's a perfect tool for asking for help, or talking or communicating that you're not the only person going through this, and you can talk about all the things to do with your new baby, and you just think, oh gosh, I thought it was all on my own and I was the only person in the world doing this at any one time, whereas you're not. And more often than not, you aren't. And you aren't alone, and there is other people in the world who are experiencing this. But having that network of people, whatever it is, whatever shape that takes for you, having a network of people that you can call on, go out with, and chat about things. And it doesn't need to be a partner. Obviously, in our situation, quite often it is, but we also go out to our wider network to talk about stuff.
I think that mothers group was, without a doubt, one of the key factors that getting you through. It was one of your saviors, because it is really crazy and mayhem. And that group that you're still in contact with today, that you still are very close to, was absolutely critical to helping you get through your days, through your weeks, and making you feel comfortable to exactly just talk what I was just saying before, is share the challenges, share the problems, cry with each other, laugh with each other, and grow with each other. So hugely valuable. I don't know if there's fathers groups, but there really should be.
They really should be. They should be just parent groups.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. So anyone listening out there, if you want to create fathers groups, I think it's a proposition in itself. But I know that, how I did that was creating my own versions of those with friends or work colleagues, or, my brother or father, or brother-in-laws, etc. There's lots of people out there, but you need a network. There's no doubt about that. And it's great to have your network internally within your family, but you also need those other outlets as well. So, really make sure that you're investing in those and fostering those. And when you've got kids, it's so easy to forget about those, isn't it?
It really is.
It's so easy to put them off.
You get so caught up in your own little world that sometimes you forget that you've got this amazing network of people who can share your load, share your mental load, even share the physical load. You know, we've spoken about it before, how much easier it is to have kids over here and families over here, because the kids go off and play and you can relax, we can relax with our friends, and they can relax with their friends. And, you know, I think it's important, even in the smallest capacity, to keep these people in our lives.
I'm just going to tell a story, because, and I know we've got to move on, but I think this brings it to a great summary, and that is, I remember when we first had our first child and we went to a wedding, and you probably remember this wedding. It was in Newcastle. It was one of our great friends. And I remember, and I was only thinking about this the other day, how pathetic it was, but I remember in my head, I had this fixed idea that, no, I've got to stay with my family. I can't go and see my friends. I can't go and talk to my friends. I can't go and be social and all that, because I've got my son that I've got to look after. And I had this stupid idea in my head that, you know, that's what a father does and that's what family's about. And I was so wrong and so opposite. And I know now, you know, many years on and many learnings on, that, you know, if we go to weddings or friends, things like that, you know, I'm the opposite. And that's my personality and who I am. But I kind of got fixed and I got sucked into these silly ideas that you somehow grow up with or somehow fall into your head. And what it does is it creates stress, and it really overwhelms you, and you think that's the only way that I need to work, and it actually prevents me from doing what I am, being who I want to be, and it actually just really makes it negative. And it was a negative experience for everyone. And yeah, I just think such a great learning, but you just get stuck in these ideas sometimes. And so having people around you that can help you and that you can bounce off and that you can challenge yourself really does help you get out of these crazy ideas that sometimes get stuck in your head and impact your behaviors.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. I never knew that affected you so much.
Hey, that's what this is all about.
It is, definitely. It's all about sharing. So, question: can you be everything to everybody?
You can't be.
You can't.
It's a really easy answer. You cannot be, and I think most of our lives we try to be.
We do.
We really try to be.
We really do.
But you can't be.
No.
And it's very, very hard not to be. But if you start to prioritize yourself and think about, okay, I've got myself, I've got my family, I've got my close family, I've got close friends, I've got colleagues, and it keeps building.
Yeah.
There's no way in the world that you can be everything to everyone.
No.
And if you're not everything to yourself first, then you actually can't be everything to anyone anyway.
No.
And you can't even add value to the people that you need to. So the answer is you can't. So stop searching for it. Stop trying to be it. And I think, you know, we all try this, don't we? I do this all the time. I know our family members, we've got so many great examples where you've got these people that try and be everything to everyone, and it's not possible. What do I always say about you? I think it's the Mariah Carey Hero song that we always try and sing when I hear Kristy saying, oh, but I can go and do this and I can do that and I can do this and I can try this. And I start singing the song because I'm like, Kristy, you can't do everything. Why are you trying to be this person? And why aren't we working together as a team here?
Yeah.
Why are we not supporting each other? And why do you think you need to be everywhere and do everything?
It's true. I am really, really bad for this. Anybody who knows me quite well knows that I'm a sucker for putting my hand up and helping. But I just love it.
You do.
But there is a point, and I'm becoming more aware of it, that I have to say no. That I can't do anymore. I can't possibly do anything. Great example. Next week at school, there's some kind of an event on, and I just can't be there. And I reached out to Dan and I said, I can't be there. And then I thought, no, actually, we do things all the time. And there has to be a point. And Dan was like, I can move around some meetings. But no, we don't have to do this one thing. That's okay. We don't have to be there for absolutely everything. You know, we're always there for our children when they need us, but we don't have to be there for absolutely everything for our children.
Yeah, and you've got to be really careful because it comes at a cost. And, you know, I think about some of the examples that you're talking about where you commit to lots of things, as do I, but it comes at a cost to the people that you love most, because what happens is you say, well, I'll still support those areas, but you know what? I'll reduce the time that we spend with our loved ones most. So, and I think this is something that I've certainly learned the hard way with work and other things, but fortunately we're still young and, you know, we're working on that a lot. And I think you're the same. You know, I think sometimes you invest less in areas that you should, because you're like, okay, they'll be fine. I'll go and do what I need to do. And it's a hard choice, but it's a choice you make.
It is.
And so you've really got to keep checking that to make sure that you're really investing in the things that count the most and are the biggest priority to you.
Definitely. And I recently there was a big decision, and Dan actually said to me, is that where you want to spend your time? And that was a really good question for me to understand whether I was doing it just for the reason of helping, or was I doing it for other purposes, for other reasons? And I came to the conclusion that I was doing it because I wanted to make something better, and my experience had been very poor, and so I had the opportunity to maybe change that experience for other people, and so I chose to take on this role, and I decided to proceed. And I'm still not sure whether Dan 100% backs me, but I've made the decision, and I know he will. And that's a really comforting thing as well. Having the backing of someone that you love is really important.
I'm concerned you don't think I back you.
You totally back me. That's what I said.
So what did you say? I don't know if you do.
Well, I was just saying, like, I don't know if you're 100% on board just yet, but I know when I start this thing, you're going to be 100% on my side, and you're going to be backing me 1,001%, like you always do. And that's amazing. And I thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's part of partnerships, isn't it?
It is.
That we back each other.
It is.
But I think talking about it's really important. So hence why I asked some of those questions, because for me, I wanted to really understand. So we're going to have lots of pain points along the way, and not to say I told you so or anything like that, but to know, hang on, but you really wanted it. So if you really want it, you're going to make it happen.
Exactly.
And yes, people will support you around, but at the end of the day, you want it. So you're going to go and get it.
Yeah.
And we'll help you to get there. But you've got to push yourself.
Yeah,
so definitely. Part of me asking that question was to say, well, I'm going to push you. I'm going to make sure that you go and get what you want.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, Dan, asking for help is okay. Absolutely. So, you know, if this decision goes badly, I know that I can go to Dan and go, I can't do it. And he'll probably say, yes, you can. Get back on the horse, you're all right, which is what Dan's really great at. But asking for help is okay. Or saying, no, I can't do that unless X, Y, Z happens. And I think I'm getting better at that. I'm getting better at asking for help, particularly when we had our kids. You know, if somebody said, oh, what can I do for you? I would always say nothing. As I had my third and fourth child, make me a meal, come and fold some washing for me. If you come over, don't just sit there, you know, do my washing up, put my dishes away. And I would always, I really got good at this when we had our last child. What can you do for me? Actually, you can make me a meal when you come over. That'd be great.
And I always feel guilty. I remember when your mum came and stayed with us in Sydney, and your mum would be ironing, washing. And I always felt very sad about that, because I thought, far out, you know, she's coming to stay. It's such a pleasure that we're so lucky to have her. And then she's doing all these things. But now I look at it and I think, gosh, how lucky were we, A, to have that, and then B, they're adding value. You know, they're really helping with the things that we can't do. We're overwhelmed. We're stuck.
Exactly.
And they're jumping in and doing those things. And, you know, my mum making food, our brothers and sisters doing things, you know, that's how you actually help. So, you know, and I know I ask this question lots to people, how can I help you? And I don't just say it as words. I actually really want to help people. Every day I leave work, I always ask my colleagues, do you need any help? Can I do anything before I go? And I really care about it. But you want to add value. You want to do things. And I think your kids ask that. They want to add value. So, I think really take advantage of it and use it, because, you know, you're not alone.
No, definitely not. And, you know, building up that community is really important.
Let's talk about saying no just for a second, because this is a huge factor that we struggle with. I struggle with substantially. And I know people in our family who are really good at it. They just say, no, I can't. I can't do that. And I can't do it for these reasons. But some people just feel compelled and guilty out of it. But the power of no or the power of not now cannot be underrated, can it? As a family.
Wow, I feel like it's the TED Talk now. Yeah, it's amazing. The power of not now. I like that one. It is a really, really powerful. No is a really, really powerful word, and it increases your power. It empowers you, really, doesn't it? To say no. There's too much going on, and I'm taking control back.
And you have to say it. You have to say, hey, friends, I'm sorry, we're not coming.
Yep.
And we're not coming because we've got lots on.
Yep.
And we want to do something as a family.
Yep.
Or we actually want to have a rest. And it's sometimes really hard to do. And there's so many great opportunities out there. But friends and family understand.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're not going to hold it against you.
No.
They're always going to be backing you and be behind you. So you've got to say no. You've got to say no to work. Sometimes you've got to say no because there's things at home that are more important that you need to focus on.
Definitely.
And vice versa as well.
Definitely.
So yeah, really practice that no or not now
Yeah.
approach because it gives you absolute freedom.
And that balance is so, so important. Saying yes to certain things, saying no to others, and that's okay.
And leaning in, right? You've got to lean in.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes you can do more, sometimes you need to do less. But I think as a partnership, you really got to contribute and, you know, lean in as much as possible. So it's not about just sitting on the fence and saying, oh, hopefully she'll do that. It's all right. What can I do? Can I do that? Or I can't do that.
Yeah.
And really being open about it.
Yes. Yeah. That's a really, really good point there, Dan.
Gosh, it's so funny looking in the mirror of someone who's a terrible overscheduler and really bad at this. But I think probably best to cut for the words to come because from someone who is like that, right? Because there's lots of experiences and lots of things that I've learnt and that you've helped me learn. I think I value that so much. It's so fortunate to have you to help with that process of helping me understand and helping me be aware of it. So I think this is a big program thanks to you, Kristy.
Oh, you're welcome, Dan. So we spoke about overscheduling, we spoke about overwhelm, and we spoke about healthy balance and asking for help and the power of no and the power of not now. So I think we really delved into this, and I think we both learned something out of this, Dan.
Absolutely. Always learning, right?
Definitely.
Always learning.
Definitely.
Don't forget to follow us on Spotify or YouTube. Thanks for all the great feedback. Keep it coming. We really appreciate it. Great talking to you as always and look forward to catching up soon.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Bye.
See yous.